Marcus Chun had always been the type of person who helped others without thinking twice about it. As a paramedic in downtown Seattle, he'd seen enough blood, trauma, and human suffering to last several lifetimes. What he hadn't expected was to encounter something that would challenge everything he thought he knew about life in the universe. The call came in at 2:47 a.m. on a Tuesday that had already been busier than most. Marcus and his partner Jake were finishing up paperwork from their previous run when dispatch crackled through their radio with coordinates that didn't make sense. The location was deep in the Olympic National Forest, miles from any road or hiking trail. "Control, can you repeat those coordinates?" Jake asked, squinting at their GPS display. "Confirmed. Forest Service reports an aircraft down. Unknown type. Possible survivors." Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. Aircraft crashes in that remote area were rare, and when they happened, they usually didn't end well. He grabbed his emergency kit and checked their supplies while Jake navigated their ambulance toward the forest access road. The drive took 45 minutes, and they had to transfer to an all-terrain vehicle provided by the Forest Service for the last 10 miles. Marcus found it strange that no other emergency responders seemed to be heading to the scene. Usually, a downed aircraft would draw fire departments, police, and federal investigators. "Seems quiet for such a big emergency," he mentioned to Jake as they bounced along the rough trail. Jake shrugged. "Maybe it's a false alarm. You know how these things go." But Marcus had a feeling this wasn't going to be routine. They reached the crash site just as dawn was breaking through the canopy of old-growth firs. What Marcus saw made him question his sanity. The wreckage wasn't from any aircraft he'd ever seen. Instead of twisted metal and familiar components, there was something that looked more like a crystalline structure that had been shattered against the massive trunk of a Douglas fir. Steam or some kind of vapor was rising from the wreckage, and there was an odd humming sound that seemed to vibrate in his chest. The Forest Service ranger who had called it in was standing a safe distance away, looking pale and uncertain. "What the hell is that?" Jake whispered. Before anyone could answer, they heard it, a sound that was unmistakably a groan of pain, but unlike anything Marcus had heard in his 15 years as a paramedic. It was deeper, more resonant, and carried an undertone that made his teeth ache. "There's someone alive in there," Marcus said, already moving toward the wreckage despite the ranger's protests. "Sir, we don't know if it's safe. That thing's been leaking some kind of fluid, and the radiation detector has been clicking like crazy." Marcus paused, but only for a moment. His training kicked in. Someone was hurt, possibly dying, and that was all that mattered. He pulled out his handheld radiation detector and was relieved to see the readings were elevated but not immediately dangerous. "I'm going in," he announced. "Jake, stay back and be ready to treat whatever I find." Navigating through the crystalline debris was like walking through a broken cathedral. The material was unlike anything he'd seen, translucent but strong, with an internal structure that seemed to shift and shimmer as he moved past it. The humming grew louder as he approached what appeared to be the intact portion of the craft. That's when he saw the being trapped inside. Marcus had to force himself to keep moving. The creature was massive, easily 8 feet tall, even while lying on its side. Its skin was a deep blue-gray color, with what looked like natural armor plating along its shoulders and arms. Despite its alien appearance, Marcus could recognize the signs of severe trauma. There was a massive gash along the being's side, and a fluid that might have been blood was pooling beneath it. The creature's eyes opened as Marcus approached, and he found himself looking into orbs of pure silver that held an intelligence that was unmistakably sentient. The being tried to speak, and Marcus heard words in a language that sounded like a combination of whale song and crystalline chimes. "Easy," Marcus said, using the same calming tone he'd use with any injured person. "I'm here to help." The alien's eyes focused on him with what Marcus interpreted as surprise. It spoke again, and this time Marcus could swear he caught undertones that sounded almost like gratitude. Marcus began his assessment. The wound was severe, and the alien was losing what had to be a significant amount of its blood, or whatever fluid served that function. The creature was massive, probably weighing close to 400 pounds, but Marcus could see its strength ebbing with each passing moment. He called back to Jake. "I need the trauma kit. Now, what's the situation?" Jake shouted back. "Severe blood loss. Possible internal injuries. And Jake, you're not going to believe what I'm looking at." As Jake made his way through the debris, Marcus tried to apply pressure to the wound. The alien's skin was tough, almost like leather, but warm to the touch. The creature watched him work with those incredible silver eyes, and Marcus got the distinct impression it was trying to communicate something important. When Jake reached them and saw the alien, he nearly dropped the medical kit. What in the... Marcus, what is that thing? Someone who needs our help. Marcus replied firmly. Get the pressure bandages and the force setup. This is still a medical emergency. Jake stared for another moment, then his training took over. Together, they worked to stabilize the alien's condition. The being's anatomy was different enough that they had to improvise, but the fundamentals of trauma care seemed to apply. Stop the bleeding, maintain circulation, prevent shock. The alien's blood was fascinating. It had a slight luminescence and seemed to contain suspended particles that sparkled like microscopic stars. Marcus found himself wondering about the physiology that would produce such a fluid, but he pushed those thoughts aside to focus on the immediate crisis. As they worked, the alien continued trying to communicate. Its vocalizations became weaker, but more urgent. It kept pointing to something in the wreckage, then to Marcus, then to its own chest. I think it's trying to tell us something, Jake said. Marcus followed the alien's gestures and saw what looked like a small device in the debris, a crystalline tablet covered in symbols that seemed to shift and glow. When he retrieved it, the alien's agitation decreased noticeably. The tablet felt warm in his hands and seemed to vibrate with the same frequency as the humming from the ship. As Marcus held it, he began to feel something strange, a tingling sensation that started in his fingertips and gradually spread up his arms. Marcus, Jake said with concern, your hands are glowing. Looking down, Marcus saw that Jake was right. Where the tablet touched his skin, there was a faint luminescence similar to what he'd observed in the alien's blood. But more than that, he was beginning to understand something impossible. The alien's vocalizations suddenly made sense. Thank you, the being was saying. Thank you for helping me. Marcus nearly dropped the tablet in shock. He wasn't hearing English. The alien was still speaking in its musical language, but somehow he understood every word. You can understand me now, the alien continued, its silver eyes showing what Marcus now recognized as relief. The translation matrix has bonded with your neural patterns. This is impossible, Marcus whispered. Many things are impossible until they happen, the alien replied with what might have been a smile. I am Kethvar of the Stellar Confederacy. I was on a diplomatic mission when my ship suffered catastrophic failure. Jake was staring at Marcus with growing alarm. Marcus, you're talking to it. How are you talking to it? I don't know, Marcus admitted. He looked back at Kethvar. What happened to your ship? System cascade failure. Our ships are grown, not built. When the bioneural networks fail, everything fails. Kethvar's expression grew more serious. But that is not the most pressing concern. I am dying. Marcus looked at the bandages they'd applied. The bleeding had slowed, but the alien's color was growing paler. We need to get you to a hospital. Your medical facilities cannot help me. My physiology is too different. Kethvar's breathing was becoming labored. There's only one option, but it requires great trust between us. What option? A blood bond. Your species and mine share more biological compatibility than should be possible. If you are willing to share your life force with me temporarily, I can use my ship's medical systems to heal both of us. Marcus felt Jake grab his arm. Marcus, don't listen to this thing. We don't know what it's trying to do to you. But Marcus was looking into Kethvar's eyes and seeing something he recognized, the desperate hope of someone who knows they're dying but isn't ready to give up. It was the same look he'd seen in countless human patients over the years. What I need to do? Marcus asked. A simple blood exchange. Your cardiovascular systems would be temporarily linked through bioneural conduits. The process would take perhaps an hour, during which my ship's medical systems could repair the damage to both of us. Both of us? I'm not injured. You will be sharing the burden of my injuries during the healing process. There are risks. Jake was pulling harder on Marcus's arm. This is insane. You're talking about letting an alien creature hook you up to some kind of machine. We don't know what it'll do to you. Marcus looked at the alien, then at the strange ship around them, then back at those silver eyes that held such intelligence and honor. In his years as a paramedic, he learned to read people quickly, to judge their character in moments of crisis. Everything about this being spoke of nobility and genuine need. If I don't do this, you'll die, Marcus said. Yes, and if I do it, I believe we will both live. But I cannot guarantee that you will be unchanged by the experience. Marcus thought about all the times he'd risked his own safety to help others. He'd run into burning buildings, worked in active crime scenes, exposed himself to diseases and dangerous situations because it was his job to help people who needed help. This wasn't really any different, except it was completely different, and they all knew it. Marcus, Jake said urgently, think about what you're doing. This isn't human. We don't know anything about it or its intentions. I know it's dying, Marcus replied. That's enough. He looked at Kethvar. What do I need to do? The alien's relief was palpable. There's a medical alcove near the center of the ship. The bioneural interfaces are still functional. But first, you must understand this bond will change you. You will carry part of my genetic memory, and I will carry part of yours. We will be forever connected. What does that mean exactly? I do not know how it will manifest in your species. In mine, such bonds create permanent telepathic links and shared abilities. You may gain some of our natural talents, just as I may gain some of yours. Marcus felt a moment of fear, but it was overshadowed by determination. Let's do it. Jake made one last desperate appeal. Marcus, please reconsider. This could kill you or worse. And doing nothing will definitely kill him, Marcus replied, indicating Kethvar. I became a paramedic to save lives. This is just a bigger emergency room. They made their way deeper into the ship, with Marcus supporting the weakening alien. The interior was even more incredible than the exterior. Organic curves and surfaces that seemed to pulse with life, bioluminescent displays showing information and symbols that the translation matrix allowed Marcus to partially understand. The medical alcove was a circular chamber with what looked like two beds grown from the same crystalline material as the ship's hull. Tendrils of bioneural conduits hung from the ceiling, ending in devices that looked disturbingly like a cross between medical equipment and living organisms. The process is automated, Kethvar explained as they approached the beds. The ship's consciousness will guide the procedure. The ship has consciousness. All Confederacy vessels do. She is ancient and wise. You may speak with her if you wish. As if summoned by the mention, a voice filled Marcus's mind, not heard through his ears, but felt directly in his thoughts. It was feminine and carried the weight of centuries. Greetings, young human. I'm a vessel Veltar. I have observed your kindness to my wounded passenger. Are you prepared to undertake the bond of blood and spirit? Marcus swallowed hard. I am. Know that this act will mark you as a friend of the Confederacy for all your days. Your sacrifice will not be forgotten. The bioneural conduits descended from the ceiling, and Marcus saw that they ended in what looked like organic needles surrounded by sensory apparatus. He lay down on one of the beds as directed, and watched Kethvar settle onto the other. The initial connection will be uncomfortable, Kethvar warned, but the ship will monitor our life signs and ensure our safety. Marcus nodded, trying to calm his racing heart. He'd made countless split-second decisions in emergency situations, but this was different. This was a choice that would change everything about his life, and he was making it for a being he'd met less than an hour ago. The conduits moved with fluid grace, positioning themselves over his arms and chest. He felt the first insertion as a cool sensation, then a strange tingling as alien biology made contact with his circulatory system. The connection is established, Veltar's voice informed him. Beginning synchronization. Immediately, Marcus felt something profound happening to his body. It was as if his blood had suddenly become alive in a way it never had been before. He could feel Kethvar's presence in his mind. Not his thoughts, but his essence, his life force. And then the pain hit. Marcus gasped as Kethvar's injuries became his own. The gash along his side burned like fire, and he could feel internal damage that made his body scream in protest. But at the same time, he felt the alien strength, resilience, and power that was beyond anything human. Hold steady, Veltar's voice soothed. The healing begins now. What happened next was unlike anything Marcus could have imagined. He felt his body changing, adapting, becoming something more than it had been. The alien technology worked through their shared blood, repairing damage and enhancing cellular function beyond normal parameters. Hours seemed to pass in minutes. Marcus drifted in and out of consciousness, experiencing flashes of Kethvar's memories, battles among the stars, diplomatic meetings with creatures of unimaginable diversity, the vast beauty of the Galactic Confederation that the aliens served. And, through it all, he felt himself changing. When consciousness finally returned fully, Marcus found himself looking up at Jake's worried face. His partner was holding a scanner over him and shaking his head in disbelief. "Your vital signs are incredible," Jake said. "Heart rate steady at 40 BPM, blood pressure perfect, oxygen saturation at 100%. It's like your body has been completely optimized." Marcus sat up slowly, expecting to feel weak or disoriented. Instead, he felt better than he had in years. His chronic back pain from years of lifting patients was gone. His vision seemed sharper, his thinking clearer. "How long was I out?" "About 6 hours. That alien friend of yours woke up 2 hours ago. He's been waiting for you." Marcus turned to see HFY standing near the entrance to the medical chamber. The alien looked completely healed, his wounds closed without even a scar. But more than that, he looked different. There was something more human about his posture and expression. "The bond is complete," HFY said, and Marcus realized he was still speaking in his native language. But Marcus understood perfectly. "How do you feel?" "Different," Marcus admitted. "Stronger. I can understand your language like it's my own. And I find myself understanding human emotion and motivation in ways I never have before. The bond has given us each something of the other's nature." Jake was looking back and forth between them. "Marcus, I've been monitoring both of you. Your cellular structure has been altered at the genetic level. This isn't just healing. This is evolution." Marcus stood and was amazed at how easy the movement was. His body felt perfectly balanced, perfectly tuned. "What have I become?" "Something new," HFY replied. "Neither fully human nor fully of my people, but something that bridges both species." "As am I." The ship's consciousness spoke again. "The blood bond has created something unprecedented in Confederacy history. You have become hybrid beings, not in form but in capability and understanding." Marcus felt a moment of panic. Am I still human enough to return to my life?" "You are still yourself," HFY assured him. "But you are more than you were. Your enhanced physiology will allow you to live longer, think faster, and understand things that were previously beyond human comprehension. And in return, I have gained human intuition, empathy, and what your people call gut instinct. These are traits my species values, but rarely possesses to such degree." Jake was still taking readings. "Marcus, your blood chemistry has completely changed. I don't know how you're going to explain this to anyone." Before Marcus could respond, Veltar's voice filled the chamber with urgency. "Warning, multiple aircraft approaching. Configuration suggests military origin." HFY's expression grew serious. "My ship's crash was detected. Your military is coming to investigate. What do we do?" Marcus asked. "That depends on what you choose," HFY replied. "I can repair my ship enough to leave your world, but the bond between us means we are now connected across any distance. You could come with me and see the galaxy as few humans ever have. Or you can return to your life, but know that you carry within you knowledge and capabilities that will forever set you apart from your species." Marcus looked at Jake, who was staring at him with a mixture of concern and fascination. His partner and friend for 8 years was looking at him like he was a stranger. "What would happen if I went with you? You would serve as humanity's first ambassador to the Stellar Confederacy. Your unique perspective, gained through our bond, would make you invaluable as a bridge between our species. And if I stay, you will find it difficult to return to your previous life. The knowledge you now carry, the capabilities you have gained, they will demand expression. You will be compelled to prepare your species for the day when formal contact is established." The sound of approaching helicopters was growing louder. Marcus realized he had perhaps minutes to make a decision that would determine the course of the rest of his life. He looked at his hands and saw the faint luminescence was still there, subtle but unmistakable. He was no longer entirely human, and there was no going back. But as he looked at Jake and thought about his life in Seattle, his job helping people, his responsibility to his own species, he knew what his choice had to be. "I have to stay," he said finally. "My people, they're going to need someone who understands what's coming." HFY nodded with what Marcus now recognized as deep respect. "I hope you make that choice. Your courage and sacrifice will benefit both our species." The alien warrior moved quickly through his ship, gathering items that look like a combination of technology and biological material. "These will help you in the years to come," he said, handing Marcus what appeared to be a small crystalline device. "When your world is ready for contact, use this to call me. How will I know when they're ready? You will know. The bond will guide you." Veltar's voice echoed through the chamber one last time. "Marcus Chun of Earth, you are now a friend of the Confederacy. That status carries responsibilities and privileges that will become clear in time." Kethvar placed a large hand on Marcus's shoulder. "Until we meet again, blood brother." The crystalline walls of the ship began to shift and flow like liquid. Within moments, the entire structure had collapsed into what looked like a metallic boulder. Kethvar touched another device, and the boulder began to glow with internal light. "Step back," he warned. Marcus grabbed Jake and pulled him away just as the boulder shot into the sky like a rocket, disappearing into the clouds seconds before the first military helicopter crested the tree line. As the sound of rotors filled the air, Marcus looked down at the crystalline device in his hand and felt the weight of his new responsibility settle over him. He was no longer just a paramedic from Seattle. He was humanity's secret ambassador to the stars, changed forever by a simple act of compassion. The device grew warm in his palm, and for a moment he felt Kethvar's presence across the vast distance between them. Gratitude, friendship, and a promise that this was only the beginning. Jake was staring at the empty clearing where the alien ship had been. "Marcus, what are we going to tell them?" Marcus looked at his partner, seeing him with new eyes that could perceive things human vision never could. "We're going to tell them it was a gas leak explosion. A military aircraft crashed, but there were no survivors. And the radiation readings? Equipment malfunction." Jake studied his friend's face. "You're different, aren't you? This changed you." "Yes," Marcus admitted, "but I'm still me. I'm still your partner. And I still have a job to do." The helicopters were landing now, disgorging soldiers and investigators who would find only the debris of what appeared to be an experimental aircraft. They would never suspect that they had missed humanity's first contact with an alien civilization by mere minutes. Marcus slipped the crystalline device into his pocket and prepared to lie convincingly to the United States military. As he did, he felt the enhanced cognitive abilities that were part of his new nature organizing information, calculating probabilities, planning for a future that suddenly looked very different than it had 12 hours ago. He was no longer just saving individual lives. He was now responsible for preparing an entire species for their place in a galactic community. And it all started because he couldn't walk away from someone who needed help. 6 months after the incident in the Olympic National Forest, Marcus Chun had learned to live with being something more than human. The official report had listed the crash as a classified military aircraft, details sealed for national security. Jake had backed his story, though Marcus could see the questions in his partner's eyes every day they worked together. The changes in Marcus's body had stabilized, but they were impossible to ignore. His reflexes were faster than any humans had a right to be. His strength had increased dramatically. He could lift a full-grown man with one arm without strain. Most remarkably, his intuition about medical situations had become almost supernatural. He could diagnose conditions at a glance that would take other paramedics extensive testing to identify. But perhaps the most significant change was his connection to Kethvar. The bond they shared manifested as a constant, subtle awareness of the alien warrior's presence across the galaxy. Marcus could sense that his blood brother was well, that he was carrying out missions for the Stellar Confederacy, and that he thought of Marcus often. The crystalline communication device Kethvar had given him remained hidden in Marcus's apartment, wrapped in lead shielding to prevent any accidental detection. Several times, Marcus had been tempted to activate it, to speak with his alien friend and ask for guidance in understanding his new nature. But each time, something held him back. He sensed that the device was meant for a specific purpose, and that time hadn't come yet. Marcus was finishing his shift at Seattle General Hospital when everything changed again. He and Jake were restocking their ambulance after a routine call when Marcus felt something that made his blood run cold. Through his enhanced senses, he detected an energy signature that was unmistakably alien, but not Confederacy technology. "Jake," he said quietly, "we need to clear the area. Now." "What are you talking about?" "We got paperwork to finish." Marcus grabbed his partner's arm, noting how Jake winced at the pressure. He was still learning to control his enhanced strength. "Trust me on this." Something's wrong. Before Jake could respond, the lights in the hospital began to flicker. Marcus's enhanced hearing picked up a sound that made his skin crawl, a high-pitched whine that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Through the bond, he felt Kethvar's sudden alarm across the vast distance between them. "Everyone needs to evacuate," Marcus announced loudly, his voice carrying with unnatural authority. Electrical fire in the main power grid. Hospital staff began moving toward the exits, trusting the paramedics' assessment. Marcus knew his explanation was false, but he couldn't very well tell them that his alien-enhanced senses were detecting the approach of a hostile extraterrestrial vessel. The attack came without warning. One moment, the hospital was a normal medical facility. The next, it was under assault by creatures that defied human understanding. They materialized out of thin air in flashes of sickly green light, beings that looked like a cross between insects and machines, with multiple articulated limbs and weapons that seemed to grow from their bodies. Marcus later learned they were called the Devourers, a species that consumed other civilizations to fuel their own expansion. They had been tracking Kethvar's ship when it crashed, and the energy residue from the blood bond had led them to Earth. The first wave of creatures swept through the hospital's emergency department like a plague. Their weapons fired some kind of energy beam that didn't kill humans. It paralyzed them completely while keeping them conscious and aware. Marcus watched in horror as doctors, nurses, and patients were frozen in place, unable to move but clearly terrified. "What the hell are those things?" Jake shouted, pulling his service pistol despite knowing it would be useless. "Trouble," Marcus replied grimly. The Devourers were methodically working their way through the hospital, paralyzing every human they encountered. Marcus realized with growing horror that they weren't killing anyone because they wanted them alive for some purpose he didn't want to contemplate. His enhanced metabolism was fighting off the effects of their paralysis weapons, but he could feel the alien energy try to lock down his nervous system. He had maybe minutes before even his altered physiology succumbed. "Jake, listen to me carefully," Marcus said, pulling his partner toward the stairwell. "These things are not from Earth. They're hunting for something, and I think I know what it is." "Marcus, you're talking crazy. What could aliens want with a hospital? They're not after the hospital. They're after me." Through the bond, Marcus could feel Kethvar's desperate urgency. His blood brother was trying to reach Earth, but he was days away at best. The crystalline communication device in Marcus's apartment suddenly made sense. It wasn't just for talking to Kethvar. It was an emergency beacon that could summon help from the Confederacy. But it was 15 miles away, and the hospital was surrounded by Devourers. Marcus made a decision that would have been impossible for his human self to execute. Drawing on abilities he was still learning to control, he began moving through the hospital like a ghost. His enhanced speed and reflexes allowed him to avoid the Devourer's detection, while his newfound understanding of alien technology helped him anticipate their search patterns. Jake followed him, increasingly bewildered but trusting his partner's instincts. They made it to the hospital's parking garage, where Marcus hotwired a motorcycle with efficiency that surprised even him. "Since when do you know how to steal bikes?" Jake asked as they sped out of the garage. "Since about 6 months ago," Marcus replied, weaving through traffic with supernatural skill. "There's a lot I haven't told you, partner." The race across Seattle was surreal. Marcus could see Devourer scout ships hovering over various points throughout the city, their occupants scanning for energy signatures that might lead them to their target. Several times, the alien craft swooped down toward their motorcycle, but Marcus's enhanced reflexes allowed him to take evasive action that kept them ahead of their pursuers. They reached Marcus's apartment building just as a full-scale Devourer assault began on downtown Seattle. The creatures had apparently decided that a subtle search was no longer necessary. Their ships were descending throughout the metropolitan area, paralyzing humans by the thousands. Marcus's apartment was on the 15th floor, and the elevator wasn't working. Jake was breathing hard by the time they reached the top, but Marcus felt like he'd just taken a casual stroll. He retrieved the crystalline device from its hiding place and activated it according to the intuitive knowledge the blood bond had given him. The device came alive in his hands, projecting a holographic display that showed the relative positions of Confederacy forces in the local galactic sector. Marcus was relieved to see that there were ships within range, but his relief faded when he realized how long it would take them to arrive. 2 hours minimum, he said aloud. 2 hours for what? Jake demanded. Help. Marcus looked out the window at the chaos spreading across Seattle. In 2 hours, there won't be anyone left to save. Through the device, he established communication with Kethvar's ship. His blood brother's face appeared in the holographic display, and Jake nearly fainted. Marcus, Kethvar's voice carried clearly across space. I felt the devourers through our bond. Are you safe? For now. But they're taking humans all over the city. What do they want? They consume civilizations to fuel their expansion. Humans will be processed for biological material unless we can stop them. Kethvar's expression was grim. I'm still 3 days away. The nearest Confederacy response force is 2 hours out, as you calculated. The humans won't last that long. No, they will not. Kethvar paused, considering something carefully. There is one option, but it is extremely dangerous. Tell me, the blood bond between us has given you access to my genetic memories. Among those memories are the activation codes for Confederacy emergency protocols. You could activate them. Marcus felt a chill. Through the shared memories, he understood what Kethvar was suggesting. The emergency protocols would temporarily grant Marcus access to dormant Confederacy defense systems hidden throughout Earth's solar system. Ancient automated weapons platforms left behind by exploratory missions centuries ago. The problem was that no human had ever attempted to interface with such systems. The neural feedback could kill him or drive him permanently insane. What are the chances I'll survive the process? Marcus asked. Unknown. No human has ever been enhanced by our biotechnology before your blood bond. You might be resilient enough to handle the connection, or it might destroy your mind entirely. Jake was listening to this conversation with growing alarm. Marcus, don't even think about it. We'll find another way. There is no other way, Marcus replied. He looked at his partner and friend, then at the chaos spreading through the city below. 2 hours is too long. By then, the devourers will have taken everyone. Through the window, he could see the alien ships working methodically through Seattle's neighborhoods. Their paralysis beams were freezing entire city blocks at a time. Emergency services had been among the first targets, leaving the population defenseless. Marcus, Kethvar said through the communicator, if you attempt this and survive, you'll be permanently changed. The neural pathways required for Confederacy system interface will alter your brain's structure irreversibly. Will I still be me? I believe so. But you'll also be something more. Marcus thought about his life 6 months ago. Simple, routine, focused on helping one person at a time. Now he was faced with a choice that could save an entire city, but might cost him his humanity. He realized he'd already made the decision. Tell me what I need to do. The process was more complex than Marcus had anticipated. Using the crystalline device as an interface, he had to open his mind completely to the alien technology. The initial connection felt like having his skull filled with liquid fire. Immediately, Marcus became aware of systems throughout the solar system that he'd never imagined existed. Ancient Confederacy monitoring stations hidden in asteroid belts, defensive platforms disguised as space debris, communication networks that had been silently observing human civilization for millennia. The Confederacy had been watching Earth for far longer than anyone realized. But accessing these systems required Marcus to merge his consciousness with alien artificial intelligences that operated on principles human minds weren't designed to comprehend. He felt his sense of self fragmenting and reforming as he struggled to maintain his identity while integrating with technology that existed on a completely different level of reality. Jake watched his partner's body convulse as alien neural patterns overwrote sections of his brain. Blood trickled from Marcus's nose and ears, and his enhanced physiology was the only thing keeping him alive through the transformation. System integration at 60%. The crystalline device announced in Veltar's familiar voice. Neural pathway establishment proceeding. Warning. Subject is approaching safe limits for biological consciousness retention. Marcus felt himself scattered across dozens of different systems simultaneously. Part of his awareness was monitoring devourer ship movements. Part was calculating firing solutions for weapons that could destroy mountains, and part was frantically trying to hold on to his memories of being human. Through it all, he maintained his connection to Kethvar, using the blood bond as an anchor to keep from losing himself completely in the vast alien networks. Integration complete, Veltar announced. Warning, permanent neural modification has occurred. Subject is now classified as a hybrid intelligence. Marcus opened his eyes and immediately knew he had succeeded. He could feel the defensive platforms throughout the solar system awaiting his commands. More importantly, he could track every Devourer's ship in Earth's vicinity and coordinate a response that would neutralize them before they could escape with their captives. "Jake," he said, his voice carrying harmonics that hadn't been there before, "you might want to look away." What happened next would be remembered as the most inexplicable military event in human history. Weapons platforms that hadn't been detected by any Earth-based technology suddenly activated throughout the solar system. Devourer ships attempting to flee Earth's atmosphere were destroyed by energy beams that came from empty space. The ships still in Earth's atmosphere found themselves under attack by forces they couldn't see or understand. Within minutes, the entire invasion force was eliminated with surgical precision that avoided any damage to human structures or casualties to the paralyzed civilians. As the last Devourer ship was destroyed, the paralysis effect began wearing off. Throughout Seattle, confused humans found themselves able to move again, with no memory of their alien attackers beyond vague impressions of a shared nightmare. Marcus collapsed as the connection to the Confederacy systems automatically terminated. The emergency protocols were designed to prevent permanent integration that could damage organic minds. But the neural pathways remained, leaving him fundamentally changed once again. "Marcus, talk to me," Jake said, kneeling beside his partner. "I'm here," Marcus replied, though his voice now carried an unusual harmonic quality. "But I'm not the same person I was an hour ago." Through the communicator, Kethvar's relief was palpable. "You did it, blood brother. The Devourers are eliminated, and your people are safe. What happens now? Now you rest. The neural modifications will take time to fully integrate. When they do, you will find yourself capable of things no human has ever been able to do." Jake was running medical scans with equipment from his paramedic kit. "Marcus, your brain activity is completely different. There are new neural structures that shouldn't exist in a human mind." "The price of saving the city," Marcus said. He struggled to sit up, noting that his enhanced strength had increased even further. How many people were taken? Kethvar consulted his ship's sensors. "None. The Devourers were neutralized before they could begin their harvesting process. Your quick action saved approximately 2 million lives." The magnitude of what had just happened began to sink in. Marcus had prevented an alien invasion, saved his entire city, and fundamentally altered himself in the process. But more importantly, he had proven that humans and Confederacy technology could work together in ways that benefited both species. "There will be questions," he said to Jake. "Official investigations, media attention. We need to prepare a story that doesn't involve aliens. What kind of story explains weapons firing from empty space?" Marcus smiled, feeling the new neural pathways organizing information and calculating probabilities within human efficiency. "Experimental defense satellites. Military black project. The kind of explanation that makes people stop asking questions." Over the next several days, that explanation would indeed satisfy most investigators. The few who pushed deeper into the mystery would find their inquiries redirected or their access to information mysteriously limited. Marcus discovered that his new hybrid intelligence included the ability to interface with human computer systems in ways that allowed him to manage information flow with unprecedented precision. But perhaps the most significant discovery came when Marcus attempted to sleep. His dreams were no longer entirely his own. Through the enhanced neural pathways, he found himself experiencing shared consciousness with other hybrid intelligences scattered throughout the galaxy. Beings like himself who had been transformed through blood bonds with Confederacy species. He was not alone. There was an entire network of hybrid ambassadors working to prepare various civilizations for eventual integration into the galactic community. Earth was not the first world to face this transition, nor would it be the last. 3 weeks after the Devourer attack, Marcus received a visit from federal agents who asked careful questions about his experiences during the incident. He gave them answers that satisfied their need for official explanations while revealing nothing about his true nature or capabilities. After they left, Jay confronted him directly. "Marcus, I've been your partner for 8 years. I know when you're hiding something. What really happened to you in that forest?" Marcus considered several possible responses, then decided his friend deserved the truth, or at least as much of it as he could safely share. "I became something more than human, Jake. And that transformation saved our city." "More than human how?" Marcus demonstrated by lifting Jake's patrol car with one hand and holding it above his head for several seconds before gently setting it down. "That's not possible," Jake whispered. A lot of things aren't possible until they happen, Marcus replied, echoing something Kethvar had once told him. The question is, can you work with a partner who isn't entirely human anymore? Jake stared at him for a long moment. Are you still the same guy who runs into burning buildings to save people? The one who's never walked away from someone who needed help? Yes. Then, I guess we're still partners. That night, Marcus activated the crystalline communicator to speak with Kethvar. His blood brother appeared in holographic form, looking pleased and proud. How are you adapting to your new capabilities? Kethvar asked. It's overwhelming, Marcus admitted. I can interface with any computer system on Earth, process information at superhuman speeds, and coordinate complex operations across multiple parameters simultaneously. But sometimes I feel like I'm losing touch with what made me human in the first place. That is the challenge all hybrids face. You must learn to use your new abilities while maintaining your essential self. Remember, it was your humanity that made you willing to sacrifice yourself for a stranger. That trait is what makes you valuable to both our species. When will formal contact begin? Soon. Your successful defense against the Devourers has accelerated the timeline considerably. The Confederacy Council believes Earth is ready for preliminary contact within the next 2 years. And my role in that. You will be humanity's primary advocate and translator. Your unique perspective, gained through our bond, and your recent transformations makes you the ideal ambassador between our species. Marcus felt the weight of that responsibility, but also excitement about the possibilities it represented. Humanity was about to take its place among the stars, and he would help guide that transition. There is something else, Kethvar continued. The hybrid network has been monitoring your progress. They're eager to meet you and share their experiences. How many of us are there? 47 confirmed hybrids across the galaxy, representing 23 different species. You are the first human to join their ranks. The idea of connecting with beings like himself from other worlds was both thrilling and terrifying. Marcus realized his journey was far from over. In many ways, it had barely begun. As he ended the communication and prepared for sleep, Marcus looked out at the Seattle skyline and thought about how much had changed since that morning 6 months ago when he'd simply been a paramedic responding to a routine call. Now, he was something unprecedented, a bridge between worlds, a guardian of his species, and the first human to carry the genetic memory of an alien civilization in his blood. Tomorrow would bring new challenges as he learned to integrate his enhanced capabilities with his responsibilities as a paramedic and secret alien ambassador. But tonight, he allowed himself to feel proud of what he'd accomplished. He had saved his city, protected his species, and proven that humans could work with alien technology to achieve impossible things. And it all started because he couldn't walk away from someone who needed help. 1 year after the Devourer attack, Marcus Chun had learned to live with capabilities that would have seemed like magic to his former self. The neural modifications had stabilized, leaving him with an intelligence that operated on multiple levels simultaneously. He could carry on normal conversations while simultaneously monitoring global communication networks, analyzing satellite data, and coordinating with the growing network of hybrid ambassadors across the galaxy. But his most important discovery had been that he wasn't as alone on Earth as he'd originally thought. The revelation came during what should have been a routine emergency call. Marcus and Jake were responding to a multi-car accident on Interstate 5 when Marcus's enhanced senses detected something impossible. Another person with a biosignature that showed traces of alien modification. Dr. Sarah Kim was working frantically to stabilize victims at the crash site. She was a trauma surgeon from Harborview Medical Center who had responded to the emergency call for additional medical support. To most observers, she appeared to be an exceptionally skilled doctor working under pressure. But Marcus could see the subtle signs that marked her as something more. Her movements were too precise, too efficient. Her diagnostic speed was beyond human capability. And, most tellingly, when their eyes met across the chaotic scene, he saw a flash of recognition that told him she knew exactly what he was. After the victims had been transported and the scene cleared, Marcus approached her. Dr. Kim, I'm Marcus Chen, Seattle AMS. That was impressive work back there. She studied his face carefully. You can see it too, can't you? The changes. When did it happen? 3 years ago. I was part of a medical research team studying a meteorite impact in Alaska. Well, we found there wasn't a meteorite. Sarah glanced around to ensure they weren't being overheard. There was a survivor in the wreckage. someone who needed help. Marcus felt a familiar chill of recognition. You helped them. She was dying. An explorer from something called the Healer's Conclave. Her ship had been damaged in some kind of space battle. Sarah's voice grew quiet. The bond we shared gave me abilities I never imagined possible, but it also gave me knowledge about what's coming. The formal contact protocols. You know about those? Marcus nodded. I'm humanity's designated ambassador to the Stellar Confederacy. I've been wondering if there were others like me on Earth. Sarah's relief was visible. I've been preparing medical facilities and personnel for the day when we'll need to treat multiple species. The knowledge I gained from Velrina showed me just how unprepared our medical systems are for galactic integration. Over the following weeks, Marcus and Sarah worked together to identify other humans who had been altered through contact with alien technology. They found 12 individuals scattered across the globe, each changed through acts of compassion or heroism that had brought them into contact with stranded Confederacy personnel. There was Dr. James Wright, a marine biologist in Australia who had rescued an aquatic species engineer from a research vessel crash. The bond had given him the ability to communicate with and understand all oceanic life forms. Maria Santos, a firefighter in Brazil, had saved a thermal-resistant alien from a volcanic eruption and gained the ability to withstand extreme temperatures. Professor Lu Wei in China had helped a wounded Confederacy scholar and acquired enhanced mathematical and theoretical physics capabilities. Each of them carried genetic memories from their alien partners and possessed abilities that would be crucial for humanity's integration into the galactic community. Together, they formed an unofficial network of human-alien hybrids working to prepare Earth for its cosmic destiny. But their preparation time was about to be cut short. The alert came through Marcus's crystalline communicator at 3:17 a.m. on a Tuesday in October. Kethvar's face appeared in urgent holographic display, his normally calm demeanor showing clear signs of stress. Marcus, we have a critical situation developing. You need to implement Confederacy Emergency Protocol 7 immediately. Marcus sat up in bed, instantly alert. Through their blood bond, he could feel his alien brother's anxiety across the vast distance between them. What's happening? A Confederacy exploration vessel has suffered catastrophic system failure in your solar system. They're going to crash on Earth within the next 18 hours, and they're carrying technology that could be devastating if it falls into the wrong hands. How devastating? The ship contains experimental terraforming equipment capable of restructuring planetary atmospheres. If it impacts at high velocity, the dispersed technology could begin converting Earth's atmosphere into something suitable for the ship's species, but lethal to human life. Marcus felt his enhanced cognitive systems immediately begin calculating probabilities and response scenarios. None of them were good. Where will it come down? Current trajectory indicates somewhere in the Pacific Northwest. Exact impact site will depend on how much control the crew can maintain during atmospheric entry. Marcus was already getting dressed. What's Protocol 7? Full disclosure to your planetary leadership, immediate integration of human and Confederacy resources, and emergency evacuation procedures for the impact zone. Kethvar's expression was grim. Marcus, this means formal contact will begin years ahead of schedule, under the worst possible circumstances. How long until you can get here? My ship is still 2 days away. The nearest Confederacy response force is 36 hours out. Kethvar pos. You and the other hybrids will need to coordinate the initial response. Marcus immediately began reaching out through the hybrid network, using the enhanced communication capabilities his modifications had given him. Within minutes, he had all 12 of Earth's alien-enhanced humans in neural contact. The response was immediate and coordinated. Sarah Kim began preparing medical facilities for potential alien casualties. James Wright started calculating the environmental impact if the terraforming technology were to activate. Maria Santos coordinated with fire and emergency services across the Pacific Northwest. Professor Lu Wei began working on mathematical models for controlled atmospheric entry. But Marcus knew their hybrid capabilities, impressive as they were, wouldn't be enough to handle a crisis of this magnitude. They needed help from human authorities, which meant revealing the truth about alien contact years before anyone had planned. His first call was to Jake, who arrived at Marcus's apartment within 20 minutes. "Partner, you look like you've seen a ghost," Jake said as he entered. "Worse, I've seen the future, and it's happening about 5 years too early." Marcus activated the crystalline communicator, showing Jake the display of the approaching alien vessel. We got emergency contact situation developing. Jake stared at the holographic projections showing the ship's trajectory and system failures. This is really happening, isn't it? Everything you've been preparing for. Yes. And I need your help to make first contact go as smoothly as possible under impossible circumstances. Together, they began implementing the contact protocols Marcus had been developing over the past year. Their first priority was reaching key government officials who had been unconsciously selected and prepared for this moment through careful manipulation of their career paths and information access. Admiral Sarah Chun, no relation, despite the shared surname, had been promoted to head of NORAD Space Surveillance Division partly due to reports that crossed her desk suggesting the existence of unidentified orbital objects. Dr. Michael Torres, director of the CDC's Emergency Response Division, had been subtly prepared through exposure to theoretical scenarios involving unknown biological agents. General Patricia Hoffman, commanding officer of the Pacific Northwest Military Districts, had been given training exercises that closely paralleled alien contact scenarios. Marcus reached out to each of them simultaneously, using his enhanced capabilities to establish secure communication channels that bypassed normal military and governmental communication systems. This is Admiral Chun. Who is this, and how did you access this channel? My name is Marcus Chun. I'm a paramedic with Seattle EMS, and I'm also humanity's designated ambassador to the Stellar Confederacy. We have an emergency situation developing that requires immediate coordination between human and alien response forces. There was a long pause. Son, are you having some kind of mental health crisis? Marcus sighed and activated visual communication, allowing the Admiral to see him and the alien technology surrounding him. Ma'am, I understand how this sounds, but in approximately 17 hours, an alien spacecraft is going to crash somewhere in the Pacific Northwest. The ship is carrying experimental terraforming technology that could begin converting Earth's atmosphere if it's damaged during impact. We need to coordinate an immediate response. Admiral Chen's face went through several expressions before settling into professional alertness. Assuming you're not completely insane, what kind of response are we talking about? Controlled atmospheric entry assistance, emergency medical support for non-human casualties, and containment procedures for potentially dangerous alien technology. Marcus transmitted data packages to her systems. Everything you need to verify my credentials and the authenticity of this threat is in those files. Similar conversations were taking place with Dr. Torres and General Hoffman. Within 2 hours, Marcus had established a joint human-alien response command center using facilities at Joint Base Lewis McChord, with hybrid team members serving as technical advisors and translators. The crashed ship's crew had been in communication with Confederacy rescue forces, but their systems were failing rapidly. Through the crystalline communicator, Marcus was able to establish direct contact with the alien vessel. This is Captain Thessera of the research vessel Quantum Garden. We are grateful for your assistance, Ambassador Chun. The alien captain appeared as a hologram in the command center, causing several military officers to step back in shock. She was a graceful, ethereal being with crystalline features and what appeared to be flowing energy patterns instead of traditional hair. Captain, what's your current status? Marcus asked. Navigation and flight control systems are offline. We have attempted to jettison the terraforming equipment, but the containment systems are damaged. If we impact at current velocity, the equipment will be scattered across a significant area. General Hoffman found her voice. What kind of area are we talking about? Approximately 50 square kilometers. The terraforming nanobots are designed to begin atmospheric conversion immediately upon exposure to planetary environments. Dr. Torres stepped forward. What would happen to humans in the affected area? The nanobots would begin converting oxygen to methane-hydrogen compounds suitable for my species. Humans in the affected area would have approximately 6 hours before the atmosphere became lethal. Admiral Chun was coordinating with satellite tracking stations. Current trajectory puts impact somewhere in the Cascade Mountain Range, east of Seattle. Population density is relatively low, but there are several small communities that would be affected. Marcus felt the weight of responsibility settling on him again. This was exactly the kind of scenario he'd been preparing for, but he'd hoped to have years more preparation time. Captain Thessera, Can your crew maintain any control over the landing site? Limited control. We can influence trajectory by perhaps 10 kilometers, but precise landing site selection is impossible with our current capabilities. Marcus looked at the tactical display, showing population centers and geographical features throughout the target area. His enhanced cognitive abilities began calculating scenarios, and he realized there was only one option that would minimize both human casualties and environmental damage. There's a large glacial valley system about 30 kilometers northeast of your current trajectory. It's uninhabited and geologically stable. If you can adjust your approach to land there, we can contain any technology dispersal and provide assistance to your crew. The adjustment is possible, but it will require us to sacrifice our remaining maneuvering capability. We would be committed to that landing site with no possibility of further course corrections. General Hoffman was consulting with her tactical team. We can have emergency response teams at that location within 8 hours. But if this terraforming technology activates, then we evacuate the region and hope Confederacy forces arrive in time to neutralize it, Marcus replied. He looked at Captain Thessera's holographic image. Captain, make the adjustment. We'll be ready for you. The next 16 hours were the most intense of Marcus's life. Working with human military and emergency services, the hybrid team coordinated preparation for humanity's first official alien contact under emergency conditions. Sarah Kim worked with military medical teams to set up treatment facilities capable of handling alien physiology. James Wright coordinated with environmental scientists to prepare containment procedures for the terraforming technology. Maria Santos helped position fire and emergency services throughout the region. Marcus found himself serving as the central coordination point between human authorities and the approaching alien vessel, using his enhanced capabilities to manage information flow and decision-making processes at superhuman speeds. But perhaps the most challenging aspect was managing the psychological impact on the human personnel involved. Despite their professional training, most of the military and emergency responders were struggling to process the reality of imminent alien contact. How are you holding up? Jake asked during a brief break in the coordination efforts. I feel like I'm trying to conduct an orchestra where half the musicians speak different languages and the other half have never seen sheet music before, Marcus replied. But we're making it work. Are you still human enough to be nervous about this? Marcus considered the question seriously. I am terrified, Jake, but not for myself. I'm scared that we're going to make a mistake that damages relationships between our species for generations to come. The alien ship entered Earth's atmosphere at 4:23 a.m. Pacific Time, streaking across the sky like a second sunrise. Marcus monitored its descent through both human radar systems and direct neural link with the vessel's failing computers. Captain Thessera managed to guide her ship into the designated valley, but the impact was harder than anyone had hoped. The quantum garden struck the glacier with enough force to cause a minor avalanche and crack the ice shelf for several kilometers. Marcus was aboard the first response helicopter to reach the crash site. As they approached, he could see the alien vessel partially buried in glacial ice, its crystalline hull cracked but intact. More importantly, he could detect no signs of terraforming technology activation. The rescue operation was unlike anything in human history. Working alongside human emergency responders, Marcus coordinated the extraction of Captain Thessera and her crew of 12. The aliens were injured but alive, and their physiology proved compatible with the medical assistance Sarah Kim's teams were able to provide. But the most significant moment came when Captain Thessera, supported by human paramedics, looked around at the assembled rescue teams and spoke her first words to a mixed human-alien audience. I am grateful for your assistance, she said in her musical language, while Marcus provided real-time translation. Your species shows honor in helping those who are not like yourselves. General Hoffman stepped forward. Captain, on behalf of the people of Earth, welcome to our world. We're sorry it had to be under these circumstances. The formal first contact protocols that followed were improvised but effective. Over the next several days, Captain Thessera and her crew shared information about the Stellar Confederacy while human leaders asked the questions that would shape Earth's integration into galactic civilization. The terraforming technology was safely contained and eventually neutralized by Confederacy technical specialists who arrived with Kethvar's ship 3 days later. The incident became the foundation for Earth's formal application to join the Confederacy, with Marcus serving as the primary human negotiator. But for Marcus personally, the most meaningful moment came when he was finally reunited with his blood brother. Kethvar materialized in the temporary command center that had been established near the crash site, and the two enhanced beings embraced like the brothers they had become. "You have exceeded all expectations," Kethvar said. "Your coordination of this crisis response has demonstrated that humanity is ready for galactic citizenship years ahead of our projected timeline." "We had good teachers," Marcus replied, "and we had help from friends we didn't know we had." Looking around at the mixed human-alien teams working together to process the first contact protocols, Marcus felt a deep satisfaction. The emergency had forced humanity into galactic contact earlier than planned, but it had also proven that his species could rise to meet extraordinary challenges. Jake approached them, still somewhat overwhelmed by everything he'd witnessed. "So what happens now, partner?" Marcus smiled. "Now we get back to work. But our emergency room just got a lot bigger." Captain Thessera joined their group, moving carefully on legs that were still healing from the crash. "Ambassador Chun, the Confederacy Council has reviewed your crisis response protocols. They're most impressed with your species' adaptability and compassion." "What does that mean for Earth?" "It means formal membership application will be expedited. Your world will be welcomed into the Confederacy within the next 2 standard years, assuming your people choose to accept membership." Marcus thought about all the changes that would bring: new technologies, contact with dozens of alien species, opportunities to explore the galaxy. But he also thought about his responsibilities as a paramedic, his partnership with Jake, and his role as humanity's bridge to the stars. "Some things never change," he said to Jake. "We're still in the business of helping people who need help. Our definition of people is just getting a lot broader." As the sun set over the glacial valley, where humanity had taken its first official steps into galactic civilization, Marcus Chin reflected on the journey that had brought him to this moment. It had started with a simple act of compassion, offering his blood to save an alien warrior's life. Now, he was helping to save his entire species' future among the stars. 2 years after first contact, Earth had changed in ways both profound and subtle. The formal integration into the Stellar Confederacy had proceeded smoothly, helped by the groundwork Marcus and the other hybrids had laid during the emergency contact period. But as humanity prepared for its first official diplomatic mission to the Confederacy's capital world, Marcus discovered that his journey was far from over. The message came through official Confederacy channels, delivered by Kethvar during one of their regular strategy meetings at the newly established Earth Confederacy Liaison Office in Geneva. "The High Council has made an unprecedented decision," Kethvar announced to the assembled group of human officials and hybrid ambassadors. "They want to conduct a formal evaluation of Earth's readiness for full membership through a trial by ordeal." Admiral Chun, now serving as Earth's primary military liaison to the Confederacy, leaned forward. "What kind of trial?" "One that will test not just your technological capabilities or military prowess, but your species' fundamental character." Kethvar's expression was serious. "You will be asked to help resolve a crisis that has stymied Confederacy forces for over a decade." Marcus felt a chill of premonition. Through the blood bond, he could sense that his alien brother was deeply concerned about whatever this crisis involved. "What kind of crisis?" Marcus asked. "The Zephyrian Quarantine Zone. It's a solar system where an entire civilization has been trapped in temporal stasis for the past 15 years. Every attempt to resolve the situation has failed, and the Confederacy is running out of options." Dr. Sarah Kim, now serving as Earth's medical liaison, studied the data files Kethvar provided. "Temporal stasis? What caused it?" "An experimental defense system activated during an attack by the Void Seekers, a species that exists partially outside normal spacetime. The Zephyrians activated a temporal isolation field to protect themselves, but the system malfunctioned. They've been frozen in time, while the Void Seekers continue their assault from the outer edges of normal reality." General Hoffman, who had become Earth's tactical coordinator for Confederacy operations, was reviewing tactical assessments. "What makes the High Council think humans can succeed where Confederacy forces have failed?" "Your hybrid ambassadors represent something new in galactic civilization," Kethvar explained. "The unique perspective gained through blood bonds has given you capabilities that exist at the intersection of multiple species' strengths. The Council believes this hybrid approach might be the key to resolving the Zephyrian crisis." Marcus studied the data with his enhanced cognitive abilities, processing information about temporal mechanics and extra-dimensional entities that would have been incomprehensible to his original human mind. What he saw was troubling. The Void Seekers exist partially in temporal flux, he realized. They're not fully bound by linear time, which is why conventional military responses have been ineffective. Precisely. And the Zephyrian's temporal isolation field is slowly degrading. If it fails completely, the Void Seekers will consume their entire civilization. Professor Liu Wei looked up from his mathematical analysis. How long before the field collapses? 6 months, maximum. Marcus felt the weight of expectation from both the human officials and his Confederacy colleagues. This wasn't just a test of Earth's readiness for membership. It was an opportunity to save an entire species from annihilation. What resources would we have access to? He asked. A specially configured Confederacy vessel with experimental temporal shielding, a crew of volunteers from multiple species, and full access to Confederacy scientific databases. HFY posts. But the mission would be led by Earth's hybrid team. Your unique capabilities would be essential to any chance of success. Admiral Chen looked around the room at the assembled team. This is exactly the kind of operation our people were enhanced to handle, isn't it? Marcus nodded. Everything we've learned, every capability we've gained through our bonds with Confederacy species, it's all been preparing us for something like this. The decision was unanimous. Earth would attempt to resolve the Zephyrian crisis, both as a test of their readiness for full Confederacy membership and as an opportunity to prove that hybrid human-alien cooperation could achieve things that neither species could accomplish alone. Preparation for the mission took 3 weeks. The specially configured vessel, designated the Harmony, was unlike any ship Marcus had seen. It incorporated technology from 12 different Confederacy species, with systems designed to function across multiple temporal states simultaneously. The crew was equally diverse. In addition to the 12 human hybrids, they were joined by Kethvar and representatives from 6 other Confederacy species, each chosen for their specific expertise in temporal mechanics, extra-dimensional physics, or void space navigation. But perhaps the most important team member was someone Marcus had never met, Dr. Zura Okafor, a human theoretical physicist who had been secretly developing temporal manipulation theories for the past decade. Unknown to most of her colleagues, her research had been guided by subtle influences from Confederacy scientific databases that Marcus had been gradually introducing into Earth's academic networks. Dr. Okafor, Marcus said as they met aboard the Harmony, your work on temporal field harmonics is going to be crucial to this mission. She studied him with intelligent eyes that reminded him of his own transformation. You're the paramedic who started all of this, aren't you? The one who helped an alien warrior and ended up becoming humanity's first galactic ambassador. That's me, though I'm still a paramedic at heart. Good. Because what we're about to attempt is going to require someone who instinctively knows how to heal things that are broken. The journey to the Zephyrian system took 2 weeks through Confederacy hyperspace routes. During the transit, Marcus worked with Dr. Okafor and the hybrid team to develop strategies for penetrating the temporal isolation field without triggering its complete collapse. The challenge was unprecedented. The Zephyrians had created a bubble of slow time around their entire solar system, but the field was unstable and deteriorating. Meanwhile, the Void Seekers existed in a state of temporal flux that allowed them to attack from multiple time streams simultaneously. It's like trying to perform surgery on a patient while they're caught in a temporal loop and being attacked by entities that exist outside of cause and effect, Sarah Kim observed during one of their planning sessions. Actually, that's not a bad analogy, Marcus replied. His enhanced cognitive systems were working on multiple levels, analyzing temporal field equations while simultaneously coordinating team strategies and maintaining awareness of the ship's approach to their destination. James Wright, whose bond with an aquatic engineer had given him unique insights into fluid dynamics, was studying the temporal field structures. The isolation field behaves like a fluid. It flows and eddies around gravitational sources. If we can find the right entry point, we might be able to slip through without destabilizing the entire system. Maria Santos was working with the ship's thermal specialists to develop protection against the Void Seekers' energy attacks. Her enhanced heat resistance was being studied to develop shielding that could protect the entire team. Professor Liu Wei had been collaborating with Confederacy mathematicians to calculate approach vectors that would minimize temporal distortion effects. His enhanced mathematical abilities were essential for navigating the complex space-time geometry surrounding the Zephyrian system. As they approached their destination, Marcus felt the familiar sensation of his enhanced senses detecting something beyond normal human perception. The Zephyrian system appeared normal on conventional sensors, but his hybrid awareness could perceive the temporal distortions surrounding it like a vast, invisible storm. Visual contact with the isolation field, announced the ship's navigation officer, a crystalline being whose species existed naturally in multiple time streams. On the main display, space itself seemed to shimmer and bend around the Zephyrian solar system. The effect was disorienting. Stars appeared to flicker between different positions, and the system's primary star seemed to pulse with unnatural rhythms. Void Seeker presence confirmed, reported the tactical officer, whose own species had been fighting these extra-dimensional predators for millennia. They're attacking the field structure from at least 7 different temporal vectors. Marcus could see them now through his enhanced perception, shadow-like entities that seemed to exist between moments, striking at the temporal field with weapons that operated outside normal causality. Each attack weakened the isolation field's stability, bringing the trapped Zephyrians closer to annihilation. Dr. Okafor, what do your calculations show for field penetration? Marcus asked. There's a resonance cascade developing in the temporal matrix, she replied, studying readouts that combined human theoretical physics with Confederacy temporal science. If we can synchronize our approach with the field's natural harmonics, we should be able to create a stable entry point. Kethvar was monitoring communications from the Confederacy response fleet positioned at a safe distance from the system. Command reports that Void Seeker activity is increasing. They may have detected our approach. Then, we need to move fast, Marcus decided. All teams prepare for temporal field insertion. The approach required precision that would have been impossible without the hybrid team's enhanced abilities. Marcus coordinated the mission using his enhanced cognitive processing while simultaneously maintaining awareness of the temporal distortions affecting the ship. Sarah Kim monitored the crew's biological responses to temporal stress. The 12 human hybrids worked in perfect coordination, their alien-enhanced abilities creating a defense matrix that operated across multiple dimensions simultaneously. Sarah Kim's medical enhancements allowed her to monitor and support the crew's biological functions under temporal stress 7.